You've been a somewhat prolific investor, a limited partner in at least 6 different VC funds. You've directly invested in many, many startups. So one question is, how do you decide whether to directly invest with a company, or when do you put your money into a VC fund? What thesis are you using or are you pursuing certain things when you invest to companies? And why do you put your money into VCs versus just putting it into like an S&P 500 index fund? Like, what's your thought process there?
That's a fantastic and a loaded question. So let me start with the last. I decide on what allocation. I do believe that you need to bet on the future, and in the industries that we have been born and that we've been kind of living over the past many years, is it's all been about the future. It's been about some technology or some mega trend, and that mega trend has turned into something pretty special. So in order to do that, out of your kind of your nested finances, you need to allocate some portion of that, at least based on your risk profile and based on other aspects, to what I would call these risky investments, where it's like, if something happens to those companies and they don't go the way that you want them, and the funds don't materialize to what the expected outcome is, you're okay with that. But you're doing that because you believe in the future of founders, of technologists, companies that are going to be hopefully generational and solving kind of either new, interesting kind of problems. So that's kind of been my investment thesis, is not get overweight and make sure that you allocate the right amount to those funds.
How much are you doing? How much of your net worth do you put into VCs
Very,
and
very small.
like
Small.
5%? What are we talking about? Less than
Oh, I
5%?
probably 1%, right?
Okay,
So
so very
yeah,
little. All right, you're taking some play money on the side basically and
yeah,
making a bet.
yeah. But
Okay.
a lot of these have minimums that you have to get in. So it's like you have a minimum to get in, and then based on that, you just have an allocation. So the next question I'll say is like betting, like companies versus funds. There's two different strategies. The company itself is usually you're betting on the founder, the team, the tech. You have some sort of relationship. You like what they're doing, and you feel that you can contribute. You can feel that you can actually offer something that would help them, get from stage C to A to B, and that you're kind of in there for the long haul. So those bets have been made based on relationships that I've had with folks, and really the ask of folks asking me to participate.
So you knew the
Now,
founder before directly
knew
and
or
got in.
was introduced to the founders,
Okay.
and shared passion, the vision. And the thing is that we all need to recognize is that you can only do so many of them, so you can't spread yourself too thin. You have to really have a good sound strategy, where you can't say yes to everybody, and
Yeah.
I think have to have a solid strategy to say that in this year or this time period I'm only going to do 3, or I'm only going to do 5, or in this year I'm going to do 0, because every one of these takes time, and it takes away from like whatever responsibilities you have outside. If you're retired or not doing anything, that's fine. You can do whatever you want. But if you're still operating kids that are very active, then you need to balance your time. So that's how I make decision on investing in companies, is I generally have a rule of number of companies I want to allocate funds towards, and it usually comes down to the founders, problem they're solving, the technology, and then can I contribute. The fund aspects are a little bit different, meaning that you're just a small piece of a larger fund, and you're adding some capital to the fund, by which now you have access to that portfolio investments, where you hope that if there's 20 investments in that fund, you hope that maybe 2 or 3 of them reach some level of liquidity. And those relationships, at least from the fund standpoint, have been based on at least the venture relationships that I've had over times, and people have asked me. And generally the funds I'm going into are mostly doing seed and A, so they're pretty early stage versus some of the later stage. And that's where I truly believe that I like investing early. My career has been built on like making early bets on companies versus going late. So that's how I make decisions on different funds. And then the thesis areas of investments is, you don't see me doing like, pharma, healthcare and like vertical type of stuff. It's really been in the sweet spot of like dev, infrastructure, as well as anything in like maybe some investments in like the GTM area. So there's VCs that kind of do GTMA, as well as like DevOps. A lot of these funds obviously have AI as a thesis as well.